Number 3. Is Satan more real than France? France is a social construct. That's a given and a point we can start with. France exists because people acknowledge France is real. If all French people somehow decided they were Belgians, France would no longer exist and become Belgium. However, even though France is a social construct that we decided exists, we can all acknowledge how real it is. To take the legendary Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari's point, tigers aren't a social construct. If we all agreed we didn't want tigers to eat us, they still would eat us. However, France, a social construct, could probably kill all the tigers in the world if it wanted to, if for some other reason the other world's governments wouldn't stop France from doing it. Thus, in a weird way, the fake social constructs we've made have become realer and more powerful than the non-social constructs that are real things. There are tiers of realness in the world. An asteroid is realer than France, since if that asteroid smashed into the planet ending modern civilization, France would be gone. And of course, Sean King stands at that pinnacle of realness. However, if we can agree to this chain of logic, we end up in the weird position where you can make a compelling argument for some things being real that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Since humans are genetically hardwired by nature to behave in certain ways, you see certain patterns of human nature develop the same across all societies. The warlord creating a harem of beautiful women, the sage pontificating to his disciples, the mother working hard to feed her children, or the hustler grinding on his next big scheme, are things that you will see in every society, since they're built-in human adaptations to how the real world works. Humans cannot exist without warlords breeding, sages teaching, mothers loving, and hustlers hustling. They're all parts of the tapestry of human life. This is where things get weird. The ancients totally knew this. The gods are representations of aspects of the order of the world and human nature. Ares was a representation of the ferocity of war, and so when the Iliad said that Ares sided with the Trojans, it means that the Trojans fought more ferociously. When Hercules killed his children and was possessed by the spirit of Hera, it's literally describing a PTSD attack, which does feel and kinda does psychologically behave like a spirit is taking over you. In some ways, this ancient view is pretty accurate to how psychology works, in that we're divided between many different warring sub-personalities and different individuals. At the same time, things like lust and hate do not belong to us as individuals, but instead are primordial personalities that we genetically inherit that take over us sometimes, which is how the ancients viewed psychology. Which brings me to the crazy point that you can make a very compelling argument that Satan is realer than France. You see satanic behavior across history. Whenever you see cruelty for cruelty's sake, uncaring greed, humans losing their poise and degrading back into animalistic barbarism, you see the psychological sub-personality of Satan manifest in human character. There is something that you see too commonly across history that you can't write it off. Wherever there's a war, there are those who rape for fun. Whenever there's big hierarchical social differences, there will be masters who beat their inferiors out of pleasure. The great will always be envied by the lesser. These are things that are hardwired into our characters that we must fight. Evil will always exist. You know evil is a real active force, since wherever you have an opening for it, evil immediately arrives. If you create the right conditions for evil, whether places where power can be abused, where you can hide your evils and the like, you will immediately see the most unscrupulous and cruel people arrive to exploit said positions. This is why communism doesn't work, since in its immense naivete, it creates absolutely no protections against evil, and the power structures it creates are so powerful and play to people's egos in such a way that you automatically get the worst tyrants in history who rise to the top of them. At the same time, the devil gets you by selling you on short-term gains while screwing you over in the long term. This is something that we'd like to believe we are beyond, but really, we show absolutely no evidence of it. I mean, we're in the era of the highest money printing, carbon output, hookup culture, and if you can think of a single short-term strategy, you would see it maxed out today. Joseph Campbell, the biggest student of mythology of the last century, spoke of the masks of the gods, or how different societies used images that made sense to their specific culture as a way of showing deep truths about human nature. As I understand it, Satan would only walk up to you with a pitchfork and horns if you were raised in a Judeo-Christian society that raised you to believe in that. But evil has different names in every society, because evil exists in every society. If we can call it Beelzebub, the Lord of Lies, and the like, other cultures will call it Ahriman, Tiamat, Loki, Chaos, and the list is infinite. I must say that different cultures do have different conceptions of good and evil, with the Abrahamic having an especially binary view, structuring its entire view of the world on good and evil. Well, say India and China do have ideas of good and evil, but it's not the central story of their entire view of the world. I say Satan, or the psychological inherent manifestation of evil, is realer than France, since long after France is gone, we will still be fighting against trying to make short-term gains or evil, corruption, and the like. These are things that are so real that we cannot possibly remove them. Evil haunts nearly every one of our actions and will do so till the end of our days. To do anything is to know the realness of your actions and thus your potential for evil.